Anecdotes for success. Level up with truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspective.
All right, we did it again. We started talking, but Matt had the discipline to say, I'm not talking anymore. And he basically put his hand over his mouth. This obviously, this is bittersweet. I've been waiting for this young lady's career to finish so we could have her on the podcast. If you know anything about me, it's my daughter, because you can see the last name.
Lucky me.
Yeah, it's not rocket science, but yeah, let's get started. Alli, you know Matt.
I do. I'm happy to be here. Been watching the podcast for a while, so I'm honored to be on it this time.
Good. Well, you come up quite a bit. You and your sister both come up, and as we were just starting to talk, you've had what appears to be a really good, really good softball career, athletic career, and my understanding is that is now come to its fruition, come to an end, like they all do.
Yep.
And, I'm sure you have. I know you have some other plans that I didn't want to hear about until we're on camera, but or before we were recording, I should say. But before we do, tell us a little bit. I think your father knows, but tell me a little bit about this last season and what it was like from the outside looking in. It looked like it was quite successful.
Yeah, so I guess just a little bit for people who don't know, I played softball at Binghamton University. So I graduated from Horseheads High School in 2018, started as a freshman at Binghamton in the fall of 2018, and then I just finished my fifth year, or COVID year, because I was in college through all that craziness this year. So this year specifically, I think was really special for me just because as a program, I think some of the changes culturally, and just some things we had been working on kind of came to fruition, and I think people from the outside started to see that. So some of the changes we were making, as upperclassmen who we tried really hard to not turn the program around, but just leave it better than we left it. We've been kind of seeing things get a little better for the past few years, but I think we had the highest win total this year that we've had in probably over a decade. We finished second in the conference ranking regular season for the first time in a while. We were behind by, I think, a game. Ultimately, we fell a little short in our end of the year conference tournament, but I had so much fun this year. I don't like to rank how the years went, but this was definitely one of my favorites just because of the people and the work ethic we had. So yeah, I could go on and talk about that for an hour, but I'll stop there.
Well, let me ask you something. You said a couple things there that I thought were worth going back on. Is you said you guys have been working on changing the culture, and it's a two-part question, I think. Specifically, like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? Because you hear that a lot, but what does that mean? And the second thing is, you said you wanted to leave the program. You and the upperclassmen teammates wanted to leave it better than what you'd started with. What does that look like too? What do those things mean?
Yeah, so I want to preface with, just being able to be a student athlete at Binghamton has been, if not the greatest privilege of my life. So I can't say enough great things about Binghamton, but I think specifically, coming in freshman year, you don't really know what to expect. You're just kind of going with the flow. And then, as you go on, you kind of take on more of a leadership position. You have more of a say of things that you liked from upperclassmen, things that you didn't like, and that kind of becomes in your hands to change that culture around. So I think, one thing we always talked about was just being able to take and receive criticism well. So especially, softball, like baseball, is a game of failure. So just being able to look at your teammate or have a teammate look at you and say, respectfully, I need you to get your head out of your butt right now, or something like, I know you're better than this. You seem to be pressing a little bit today. What can we do to change that? I don't know if you realize it or not. Just things like that. And I think that's something that's just going to serve me and my teammates well as we continue throughout our career. I've learned it's a great skill to have just in the real world too, to ask a mentor or a peer, what do you think I could be doing better that I may not be able to see myself? And also just learning how to say those things in a respectful way. Because, there's a difference between intent and impact, as I'm sure you guys have talked about a lot. So, just the way we say things, the way we respond to things. I think that's something we saw grow a lot during my time at Binghamton. And then the other thing that we talked about a lot, we watched this video that I know my dad has seen from the Duke women's basketball coach. And he basically talks about how you're going to go through a lot of adversity as an athlete, but the best athletes learn how to handle hard better. So that's a phrase that we talked about as a team. I think about a lot. You can't stop hard things from happening. You can only control how you respond to them and how you can handle them better. So I think, that's something we've improved upon a lot as a program while I was there. And I think the future is so bright still. I mean, they're definitely on the up and up. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Good. That handle hard better thing is very interesting. I hadn't really heard that. I'd love to see that video.
Yeah.
Paul,
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, share that with me.
He loves that one too. We talk about it a lot.
but it's so interesting you say that, Alli, because one of the things that it's like a pet peeve of mine, and maybe the biggest one, is I look around so often, not with everyone. I don't like to paint anything with a broad brush, but I look around so often and frankly, especially in younger generation, high school, college, and what I see, and this is anecdotal, is a lot of people who want hard to go away. They want there never to be hard. Hard means there's something wrong going on, and we've got to defeat hard. And I feel the exact opposite. We're gonna have hard, and so to hear that, I mean, it's a statement that I guess I made, that like I see this, I hear it a lot. Or that sense of it, I mean, it sounds like you're agreeing with me, at least to some sense. Like, what do you think about what I said there, and why not, instead of say handle hard better, let's change it to let's get rid of hard completely?
Yeah, see, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, because I feel like failure is just as much a part as anyone's journey as the success is. And I feel like
maybe more.
Yeah, if not more. And most people, when they're talking about themselves, they want to talk about all their successes, but like I'd rather hear about your failures, because I think like failure is something that everyone relates to on some scale. So no matter who you are, where you are, you've failed before. Like that's just up there. And I think like one analogy I've heard that I really liked is, I think that when you're afraid of failure, you can set lower goals for yourself. So say you set a low goal for yourself and you reach it. That's awesome. But if you set a really high goal for yourself, and even if you just miss it, you're still higher than you were with the low goal. So even though that's a fail, like, is it really? Because you're still higher than that low success would have been. So I kind of just think about it like that. We've heard my dad's yo-yo analogy, I'm sure. And that's something I relate to. I mean, I think like I even say with one of my teammates, like we'd be struggling during the game. I'm like, man, like the yo-yo is down right now. Like we would literally say that to each other. And I think just being able to tangibly express that, just kind of when you're going through something like that, you just have to be able to see the silver lining in what's happening to you. Because I mean, I'm 22 years old, and there's times in my life already where I've failed, and I can now see why that had to happen to me. That either another door could be open, or when a new situation presents itself, I now have the skills to get through that I wouldn't have had if I just had an easy road.
Agreed. Paul, I'll let you go. I don't know where you stand in the questions here, and I don't know whether you're gonna ask really difficult ones or just throw her, softballs like in the gym all those years.
Yeah. This is fun, because I feel like I have a front row seat at one of the greatest conversations in the world right now for me. So no, and Matt, I already sent you the link to that Hard is Better. I mean, that's literally what it's called. You'll love that. Don't watch it during the podcast, but
recommend it to anyone. I recommend it to anyone listening. Just look up Handle Hard Better.
It's Hard is Better. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Alli, I want you to go way back to when you started playing softball and uh you played basketball as well, but when you realize, like, at what point in your life, there's a couple, I mean, I'm privy to this information. At
Mhm.
what point in your life were there moments where you're like, this is something I really want to do? Because you weren't really good at it at first.
Well, we only have what, like 45 minutes, right? So I'll
But yeah, whatever.
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Um, so yeah, so I mean I played T-ball, and all that stuff. And then Jenna, who's about a year and a half older than me, got into softball. And naturally being the younger sister, I had to do everything she was doing. So when she was, I think, 7, and you can quote check me on these facts, but she was interested in being on a local travel softball team. And honestly, at the time, they just pretty much took me too because I was her sister. And I think I was about 4 feet tall and got one hit the entire summer at our last tournament. So I really probably did not deserve to be there from a credential standpoint. Um, but I don't know. I just feel like obviously at that time I didn't realize the magnitude of the impact that it would have in my life, but I loved it. I enjoyed playing it. And I think, as a kid, you're not worried about success and failures at the plate or in the field. Like I was just having a great time. And that's what I remember about it. But moving on from there, I just always kept playing. Jen and I were on the same teams. Um, and then flash forward a little bit, I remember 7th grade. This is where kind of the first adversity with softball comes in. I was playing on these travel teams. I was really excited, because in 7th grade you can try out for junior varsity. But just one problem, I got cut from JV in 7th grade, which was tough because, you just start comparing yourself to everybody saying, well, I'm on this travel team. Like, how'd they make it? And I didn't, just stuff like that. And I was honestly embarrassed because I'm traveling to all these places. Like, I can't even make JV. What am I doing? That was kind of the first time that a lot of self-doubt crept in of, maybe this isn't it. What should I do? And I remember coming home and I was devastated. Like, I had the probably the most honest talk with my parents I'd had in a while, just saying, like, what do I do from here? I don't know if I should do this. Like, should I even play modified? Like, just a real talk. And, they kind of looked at me and were like, well, you have two choices here. You can kind of just be complacent and, whatever happens with your softball career happens, or you work your butt off and you make a statement next year and you not only make JV, but you try to earn a starting spot. So that's ultimately what I did. Um, and then next year in 8th grade, I placed first in the entire JV tryout and made the JV team. So that was kind of the first time, where, I mean, we'll get into this too, but just the lessons you learn from sports are insane and more important than, any stat that you could possibly obtain. But I think that was the first time I just kind of proved to myself, like, wow, if I really set my mind on something and I work hard, then I can achieve, what I'm trying to. And that sounds really cheesy, but
Oh, it's probably the greatest lesson any
yeah,
person can learn, and it's sadly a lesson that most people it's easier to quit, right, Allie? Not
yeah,
maybe not for
oh yeah,
you, but for far too many people, it's easier to point the finger. I didn't make it because the coach
yeah,
didn't like me, or or that coach's daughter is this, or any number of things we can make up. But what you
yeah,
just said there is the greatest thing that could ever happen to a person is go, look what happens when I put my mind to something and work hard. Look at
yeah,
the outcome. And it might not even be what you hope it is. Back to your early, it might be a little less, but to see that rise
yeah.
through there and feel that accomplishment, I'll let you continue. But
No, you're good. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more.
I just the number of people who haven't figured that out at 40,
Mhm,
let alone 14, it's sad to me. It's sad to
yeah,
me. So
and
anyway, keep going.
no, you're good because I was just gonna say too, and I'll get into this. Like, I feel like a lot of people just decide not to even try because they're like, well, what if I give all this effort and still fail? It's like, okay, but what if you don't? Like, if you don't give the effort, you're definitely gonna fail.
Yeah.
If you do give the effort and you still fail, you're still in a better place than you were. And I don't even like to use the word fail because it's not even necessarily a fail. It's just a different. Anyways, um, so then I played on JV. Was it 10th grade I started varsity? Did varsity? Yeah. So I got pulled up to varsity in 10th grade. But there was a girl, who was currently playing over me. And, this was just another challenge. I, had got pulled up to the higher level. I wanted to keep getting better because you go, from dominating a little bit on JV to getting pulled up to that next level. And that had kind of always been the story of my career, just having an older sister. I was always playing up, and the teams I was on, I was always younger, which served to be, a benefit because I feel like it was just always pushing me, to see what that next level is. But anyway, so a few games into the season, the girl who was playing ahead of me got sick and didn't come to the game. So I got to start that game, and after that game, I started every game for the rest of the year. And
Ooh,
then
you Wally pipped her.
yeah, which
She doesn't know who he is.
If anyone
Yeah.
doesn't know that, Lou Gehrig at a time played the most games in Major League Baseball history, most consecutive games.
Mhm.
And there was a guy, he played first base. There was a guy by the name of Wally Pipp who played ahead of Lou Gehrig for the Yankees. And Wally Pipp sat a game because he was sick or injured. I forget why. And Lou Gehrig went in and played for like the next 20 years in a row or whatever. So it's called being Wally Pipp. So
Yeah, so maybe not on the same scale as varsity softball, but like pretty close, I'd say.
It's the only scale you know.
No, I'm kidding.
Hey,
but yeah, after that, just played
no.
out
Yeah,
through high
go
school.
ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say played out through high school, and then we can get into college stuff too. But
So
yeah,
back to when you didn't make JVs. How was your relationship with that coach the rest of your career?
awesome.
And I
Awesome.
knew you'd say that, but there's no blame in our household. There was like, I can't believe this happened or that happened, and we worked hard not to compare anything.
Yeah.
We worked hard on how do you get better. Like
It
life's not.
just it's just like I've just kind of always been the person where if I'm not even gonna use the word rejected, just if I get criticism, the first thing I do is I go home or go wherever I am and take time to actively reflect on it. Why would someone say that? Can I see their perspective? How did that decision come about? My first reaction is never, although sometimes I want it to be, I can't believe they do that to me. What, like, I'm gonna give up. I think it's a lot, and this is missed out on a lot of people and a lot of athletes is criticism comes from somewhere. It may not be internal, but I think the first thing you have to do is just try to understand, is it valid? Is there something I can take from it? And if not, let's go have an upfront, direct conversation about what they meant by it. Because sometimes you'll say, I was just having a rough day and it got taken out on you, instead of letting it spiral downhill and things like that. But in terms of like athletic rejection, I've always just, taken time to go reflect. And then if I need to have a further conversation, go have it. But I think for a lot of people, the first thing is just believe this. It's their fault. They don't like me. It's because of XYZ reason. So I just think that's important to know too.
No, it's super important. And that's hard. It's a great skill set to have, and some probably learned in some sense from you. And most people aren't like that. And, I'll admit that oftentimes my reaction is to say, well, what's their problem that they have the nerve to criticize me?
I'm not perfect. Yeah, I'm not perfect.
No, I know you're not. I know you're not. What I'm saying is that takes probably takes paying attention a lot, doesn't it? Paying attention to your own emotions and making that a habit of some sort. It's probably not, something that you just kind of were born with, although maybe it was, but it
Definitely
seems to me
not.
like something you really have to try to do.
Yeah, and I think one thing too that I've just learned throughout, my athletic career is there is so much just conflict that could be avoided if when someone says something to you, you simply say, what do you mean by that? Can you elaborate on that? Instead of being like, okay, and then just talking to other people about it. I mean, even with my friends or other people sometimes, if they come to me with something, the first thing I say is, oh, well, have you talked to that person about it? Well, no, and it's like, okay, and honestly, like I've done that too, and my friends have called me on it in the same way. It's just so easy to take that and say, well, I knew what they meant by it, but sometimes you don't. So I think just being able to ask the simple question of, can you explain to me what you meant by that, just so we're on the same page?
Yeah,
I think
good advice.
I don't know, but
So real quick, my students were doing an elementary field day today, and there's a school nurse there, and kids were coming up saying their feet hurt. And I go, oh my gosh. And the nurse goes, no, it's because they're never outside playing. And they're outside playing for an hour and their feet hurt. And they think there's something wrong with that. And I was thinking about this throughout this whole conversation, because if at an early age your feet hurt and you take that to whatever uncomfortable thing you're doing,
Mhm.
what hope is there for when they get older and all of a sudden their boss is mean to them, their feet hurt again, right? Or they're failing in school or getting cut from a sport, their feet hurt. Like it's like a metaphor for life. My feet hurt. And now some parents, the nurse was great about it, and just brushing off and knowing it's not a big deal. But what parents coddle that, and what parents just say, no, they don't really hurt, we just have to get out more. And I think you're fortunate that you had the mindset early on that when your feet hurt, that's okay. It means they're not going to hurt in the future. Did I ramble too much, or does any of that?
No, I was just
like-
gonna say.
I took a chance with that.
No, I was gonna say as simple as it sounds, plug your ears. I'm gonna say something nice about you, Dad. I just think, from an early age, my parents always had me, if we were ordering pizza, if I needed to make an appointment, call yourself. And at the time, I thought that was the biggest deal in the world. I'm like, I can't call. Like, I'm scared. And they were like, you have to learn to do this because someday you're going to do it. I mean, even being in my dad's class senior year, just the simple skill of having to go into a business where I didn't know anybody and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. Nice to meet you. I'm here to shadow whoever today. It's just that is a skill I feel like that is being missed on so many kids or young adults that I think is so crucial to be able to handle conflict and effectively communicate.
Oh, Allie, I agree. It's such a big deal, and I see this. Let's say it's in my subways, and I'll be in, and there'll be a kid who's plenty old enough, and they'll be with their parent, and we'll ask, in our world, what would you like? What size? What kind of brand? So we're asking all these questions, and the child, who might be 12 years old, 11 years old, 10 years old, to me, should be doing it all on their own. Their parent can be there to support them and that kind of thing. But they'll say to their mom, they'll turn to the mom, I'd like a turkey sub. And then the mom goes, turkey, please. And then American cheese. And I'm just thinking, all I'm thinking is, this is the kind of thing that it's not going to end well. Not my sub. My sub's going to come out perfect, of course.
Right. Well, yeah. Yeah.
But it's what you said, Allie. It's you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And you want to make your child or anyone you're trying to teach just uncomfortable enough, right? So that they can get through it. But that's a growth. So I love it. You're spot on, and Paul, good for you and Stacy for doing those types of things. And it's no wonder your kids' daughters have turned out as good as they have, because parenting is a big deal.
Yeah, he did all right.
Now we talked about it with Jenna. I'm going to bring it up again. I'm going to set Allie up for this. This is one of these softball questions, metaphorically. Was there ever a time our family was allowed to complain about a situation or event? What did we call it? Do you remember?
Well, the 5-minute session we got, yeah. So
I'll say it, the bitch fest.
Yeah, well, I was gonna, yeah. So after, because just growing up around athletics a lot, you see all different types of, I'll just use the term parenting tactics, as far as athletics go. And one thing that I always appreciated about my family is I felt like I was loved regardless of how I performed on the softball field or the basketball court. And like now that I'm older, I see how valuable and how sometimes honestly rare that is. Sadly to say it, but I truly never felt like my relationship with my parents was affected on how well I hit a ball or threw a ball or shot a basketball. Something I thought was silly, and then I'll get to what we were talking about, is every year my parents would sit me down all through high school and they look at me and they'd say, "Do you still like it? Do you want to play?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, "Yeah, I want to play. What do you even mean?" But now I'm like, wow, like that was really, really cool because they would love me the same whether I ever put on cleats again or anything like that. And I just think that's super special, like to be able to have that relationship, especially because, when things weren't going well for me in my sport, because sometimes they didn't go well. Instead of, having my parents also be coaches and just on me, I could go to them and say, "This is how I feel right now. Like, can you help me get through it?" As, my supporter and someone that loves me, instead of saying, "You need your hands higher, you need to swing at this pitch," which sometimes we had those conversations too. Don't get me wrong. But I just think that's really special. So one thing we did after, travel tournaments, because sometimes we'd have 5-hour rides home. I mean, we drove to Colorado, so that was like a 24-hour ride home. And we were just like, we can't talk about the fact that I struck out twice for 24 hours on the ride home. So
Oh, I
we,
could.
well, yeah, I mean, yeah. But we didn't want to, so we not necessarily set a timer, but we'd be like, okay, we get 5 minutes and we can say whatever we want, and you guys just need to listen. Like, it's not really even a discussion. Me and Jenna are just at it. Just 5 minutes, just talking about whatever we need to get off our chest. They get like a rebuttal, maybe, and then we're just done. Like, we're done. And then we turn up the music and we enjoy our trip home as a family, which looking back, I think is honestly a good idea. And I got this advice from my sister. I've kind of done the same things in life. Sometimes if I have a crap day, I'll set a 10-minute timer and be like, I'm gonna be pissed for 10 minutes and then I'm gonna get over myself. Like, I'm gonna go sit in my room for 10 minutes and then I'm gonna go hang out with my friends downstairs, because this thing that I feel like is such a big deal right now isn't gonna matter a year from now. So, and I can definitely be better at that. That is something I can grow with, but that's something I want to continue to do.
No, I think that's awesome, and it sets boundaries. It lets you get the stuff off your chest, like you said. Paul, was that just some harebrained scheme you had, or?
Yeah, we could have a whole nother podcast on the thing Stacy and I tried yelling charts and I
I
mean,
always lost those, I'm not gonna lie.
well, no,
It was
you and
between
me.
him and me, and we
Yeah,
we had like 10, and Jenna and my mom had like one.
that like the purpose between behind the yelling chart was we'd find ourselves just yelling at each other all the time. So if you could go each day without yelling, you get so many points, and then on
Okay,
Friday we'd take you to the arcade or something like that at the
I see.
mall. You know, but oftentimes I was the one losing. Like, and so I'm like, what's but it's very self-reflective. Like, what's the
Yeah,
problem that I'm telling my kid not to yell, but now that we have a chart, I'm the one yelling.
yeah,
And
absolutely. Maybe there's
and
something
that
there,
could be
right?
a boss, a teacher. Like, we often think it's everybody else's problem, but the chart was the chart. So back to the bitch fest. Yeah, it was just another harebrained scheme that for every 10 we tried, two might work, you know.
That,
Uh
Yeah.
and that's just the way it operated. Allie, talk about the mindset of okay, you go to high school. I mean, I'll
Mm,
do a humble brag for you. You're female athlete of the year at your high school,
mm.
and you get to go to Binghamton. You have a big day. You're on your way there, and all of a sudden you're a freshman. So everybody should think you're all this. So talk
Mhm.
about the mindset of what you think's going to happen and what really happened.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just gonna speak for, my journey specifically, because obviously everyone's situation is different. But so just kind of that recruiting process, I won't get into all of that, but I ended up getting recruited by Binghamton, which was a
Let
dream
me
of,
back up a little bit. So you
yeah,
also played basketball and you were considering college basketball at the
I
time.
was.
So you can even say what was the difference between that before you moved on?
Yeah, so I considered basketball for a little bit too, but ultimately, like, there was just something really special for me about softball. I just loved the process of it, and I felt, I mean, one, I loved the game, I think, just a little bit more, and two, I knew I could play at a higher level in softball, but When you reflect, like that is something that was important to me. I wanted to play at the highest level. And yeah, so I got recruited by Binghamton. It was a little differently than I would have expected. So just long story short, basically we had, talked for a while. Um, Honestly, like took a break talking for a while, then went on a visit, and I got offered a spot on the team. But it went a little differently than I expected. So when I was in the office, I got offered a position as a walk on the team, which means I would not be a scholarship player. Which I at first I was happy and then I was sad, and then I went home and I'm like, why am I sad? Like I just got the dream of like, not that I was sad, but it was just it's something I needed to reflect on that I wasn't necessarily prepared for. So I remember asking, will people be able to tell I'm a walk on by the way I'm treated, and will I have the same opportunity to compete as everybody else? And they said, no one will be able to tell. You'll have the same opportunity to gain playing time and compete. And honestly, like that was all I needed to hear, because from my past experience, like the hard work didn't scare me and the competitiveness didn't scare me. And the university was one that I knew was the right fit for me. I mean, people always say you walk onto campus and you're like, oh, I just had a feeling. Like I genuinely did. The people there were awesome. The values of the coaching staff coincided with my own. Um, Players were awesome. Had my major specifically, had a lot of career opportunity, things like that. So, I mean, my freshman year, it didn't take me a long time to realize a lot of my teammates were faster, stronger, frankly, a little bit more talented than I was, which was definitely a change, coming out of high school. But I think it's important to realize for athletes who are playing in college, like not necessarily the same award, but everyone on your team is going to be athlete of the year from wherever they're coming from. Not that I'm downplaying that award at all. It's amazing. Horseheads has a lot of talented athletes that graduated out of my class. But I think on some scale, you just got to know you're a little fish and a big pond when it comes to collegiate athletics. Um, but I caught a lot of bullpens that year. I worked my butt off. I got strong in the weight room, and most of all, I loved it. Like I just loved being a part of Binghamton softball, really. And I came back my sophomore year, and something kind of crazy happened where I think my freshman year I got maybe like 17 at bats the whole year. I think I started 3 games. We were sitting in a team meeting, and my coaches and teammates voted me as one of our team captains as a sophomore. And
Wow.
that like truly, I don't want to say like changed everything, but it really like I needed it. Because it was just like a little token of like, wow, like what you're doing isn't unnoticed and it's valued the way that you're, kind of working, going through things and presenting yourself. And that really just changed my perspective, because I'm like, you know what, just because I'm not on the field, like I'm making an impact. Like I love this. I love the process of working every day. Like I love going to lift. And people say, there's the John Gordon quote, like you don't have to do something, you get to do it. And that's truly how I felt going to practice every day, no matter, if I was starting or not. And I think something that may confuse people too is it's not that I was ever complacent with not playing. It's just that at some point you have to embrace it and make the most of it. So, during my freshman, sophomore, and even junior year, I didn't see a lot of playing time. And then before my senior year started, we brought in a new hitting coach. My old assistant coach moved up to head coach after our head coach became a mom, and she decided to step down. She has a beautiful family, and she's so happy. I'm so grateful for all she's done for me, allowing me to play at Binghamton University. But we did have a little bit of a coaching shift. And this hitting coach kind of came in and basically just rocked my world. Like she was like, we're changing everything. This is what we're gonna do. You gotta trust it. And I had kind of a hard discussion with my head coach and was like, what I'm doing right now is not really working anyway, so might as well try it, more or less. Like not to sound bad, but you're not killing it with what we're doing, so might as well buy into this. And the first semester of my junior year, I could not, or my senior year, I could not hit the broadside of a barn. I'm like, well, this is going downhill because, and I'm making it sound like a joke, but it wasn't, but just bear with me. But it was just kind of going downhill. And all of a sudden, like I just kept working. And at our last tournament in the fall, I played the best game I had in a long, long time. I was hitting the ball different than I ever had. I was fielding better than I had in a while. And it all just seemed to click, of course, right before we went home for winter break. um, but when we came back that spring, I started all, I think, 45 games that our team played and ultimately ended up first team all conference pick. And when I say this stuff, like, it is truly not to like toot my own horn or anything like that. I just like the story I want to tell is, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Because like when I was working hard my freshman and sophomore year, it wasn't because I want accolades. It was because this is what I need for myself to know that I've left it all out there. Like that's just like a part of me. I need to work hard and it's intrinsic. Like I was just working because I love the process. I wasn't working because I had guarantees or was like that I deserve this. Like people owe it to me. It was more so just I'm grateful to be here and I owe it to myself to give it everything I've got. And you're gonna get opportunities no matter where you are. It's just whether or not you're ready for them and prepared.
That's I mean, it's incredible. I love hearing I love hearing all of that, especially the whole intrinsic part and the fact that you're just enjoyed the process. You're just grateful to be put in a position to be in the process,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't about some end goal of all conference or starting X amount of games or any awards or anything. It was about being the best Alli Richmond
Yeah.
Alli could be, and that message is truly the message I think everyone needs to hear. But
Mm-hmm.
but so at, at, at what point though? At what point do you realize though that kind of things have changed in terms of your success? It
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going back to the hitting coach a little bit. Honestly, is
Yeah.
like, did you just trust it that if you just did it, it was whether you don't didn't know if it was going to work or not, but I'm just going to trust the process and live with the results. And then when it did,
Mm-hmm.
uh, tell me about that. I find that fascinating because it would seem like it'd be so easy to give up.
Yeah. So for me, like I have a very analytical mind. So if I'm gonna buy into something, I need to understand how it works, why it'll work, why it's beneficial for me to buy into. So honestly, like I spent a lot of time with her just asking questions. Like there would be some practices where she'd say something and I'd be like, I don't understand what you're saying. Just because like if I don't understand it, it's really hard for me to buy into it,
Sure.
if that makes sense. So once I understood the process of what she was trying to do, I was like, if I can get this, I think it's gonna help me a lot. And it just, just with hitting, I don't know if you know much about hitting. It's just there's so many little like just because you're struggling a lot doesn't mean a lot is wrong. Like it's a game of inches. You can miss the ball by this much, and there's nothing wrong with your swing. It's just a little correction. So, that's kind of what they kept telling me all that fall is like you're getting it. You're so close. You're so close. And I'm
Okay.
like, well, that's great. You think I'm close, but I'm not. But it's just kind of that. But I was like, you know what? I'm in it. Like I really believe in this. I believe in, what my head coach is doing. I believe in all the work I've put in throughout the years. I believe, that I'm just gonna keep trying at it. And that being said, like it ended up working out the way, that process went. And now, like even when I give lessons, that's some of the stuff that she's taught me. And, all my coaching staff during my time at Binghamton has taught me is what I try to relay, just because I believe in it so much. So yeah.
So my turn.
Yeah.
Uh, when looking back at youth sports, and I know all the trainers that are out there and all the lessons that kids get and all
Mhm.
the time young people put into athletics. I mean, obviously, so many people work hard. Do you think they put enough time into the mental approach to things, to the process, like you said? Because to me, sports are great because there's no guarantees and they're competitive, but they apply so many life lessons. And I feel like
Yeah.
so many miss out on the life lessons of sports.
Yeah, so I think like one buzzword that needs to be talked about more in like youth athletics and just all the way through college is perspective, which I know you guys talk about all the time. So it's just, a lot of people like to say you're in your head right now, like it's mental. Well, if I don't do any mental training, like I'm not really sure what that means as a kid. Like you get told you're in your head right now. Well, now I am because you just told me I am. Like it's kind of just like this cycle, I feel like. And that even happens at the college level. Someone's like, you're in your head. It's like, well, do I look like I'm in my head or like am I actually like, then you just kind of start to question what's going on. But I think it's important too, just from, the lesson standpoint, having perspective. I mean, one thing I kind of hope people can take from my journey is I had 1 year, I wasn't even sure I was going to take my COVID year at that time, 1 year of softball left, and I'm changing the swing that I've done for 19 years because I believed in it. So I feel like instead of just having these blinders on of like, I'm trusting what this one person has told me, it's like, well, maybe just try to listen to see if you truly believe what that person's saying. Because if you go to a hitting coach, and I tell kids this, that I've started giving lessons. I'm like, I know you have coaches, I know you have hitting coaches, but all I ask is that you're open to what I'm saying. And if you can take one thing from the field today that you've learned from me, that's a win. Like just stay open-minded to different perspectives and different approaches because it's not a one size fits all. I don't think in any sport. I mean, there's people who get taught to hit different ways. Like all the teams in the College World Series right now, some of them get taught how to hit different ways. And I don't think it's fair to say that one works and one doesn't when you're looking at all these teams in the World Series. So I think it's important for kids to know. And I think that's sometimes on coaches too, like youth coaches saying, it's my way or the highway, like I'm right, you're wrong. I think it's important to listen to athletes and what's important to them, which my coaching staff has always done. They say, if you're uncomfortable, come talk to me and, we'll figure it out. So I just think, perspective is huge, huge, huge for athletes, especially, at the younger.
You hit a buzzword with Matt and I because perspective,
Yeah.
if you don't have perspective, it means you've never had anything to compare. So it means you've always just done everything the same way. So
Yeah.
thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I knew that was a buzzword for you guys. I figured it'd be a fan favorite.
No, it is. It is. Alli, I got a question for you. I know we're getting late here, but I wanted
Oh,
to ask you this from the beginning. So I don't Paul sometimes will pull the rug out from under me, and I don't know what's coming. So I want to get it out there. What has been the best individual moment for you? So not winning an award, not and nothing team related. I mean, was there one moment, one play, that sticks out for you that you'll never, kind of that never forget, or whatever you want, wherever you want to go. But I'm always wonder that about athletes who've played at a high level with who are successful. Like, is there something that sticks out just about you? Because everyone wants to talk about when the team won this, and I understand all that, and that's valid and awesome. But I don't want to hear about that. I want to hear about something just something you did.
So I'll pick one on the field and then one off, if that's okay with you, because there's two that come to mind.
Even
So
better.
on the field was we so right after that fall season I was talking about when things kind of started to click at the end, we went down to Georgia Southern to play a tournament. Our first spring season tournament of that year. And I was in the starting lineup. I was really excited. And my first at bat, I struck out. And, all the feelings come flooding in like, oh no, like this year is different. Like I know it is. So my next at bat, my coach pulls me, she calls timeout. Like I'm up to bat. She calls timeout. She pulls me over and she goes, I am so proud of you. Like I need you to show everyone else like everything that you've done that we all know you're capable of. And I was just like, wow, that hit. Like she's right. And I hit a double that year. And that season, I ended up ranked in all of Division I for doubles per game, which is honestly a super random stat. But it was just like that one double I hit. I was like, I can do this. Like it felt so good. I knew that the swing I had was the one that I'd been working on, and I just feel like that was just a catalyst for the rest of that season and even into the next season. So
Cool.
that was just one for me, and just seeing like how excited my team was for me, because they're the ones who were there day in and day out. They were like, yes, like let's go. So that was just really cool. And then off the field, um, this past year, Binghamton University every year puts on a women's luncheon. So basically, they bring in 500 to 600 people. Businesses in the community buy tables, other student athletes come, coaches come, and it's basically, to raise awareness for women's athletics and raise scholarship money for female athletes. And this year, I was asked to be the student speaker at that event, and they basically told me, "We just want you to talk about your journey, because we think it's one that people should hear." And that was something that was really, really cool to me, because that was never my goal. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
was not going into college. I'm like, I'm just gonna work hard, and who knows what'll happen. But just having someone say like your journey is worth sharing, and I think people can take something from it. That was one of the best things that I could have ever had the opportunity to do. And on top of that, Dottie Pepper was the speaker at that. So I got to sit at a table with her. For those of you who don't know who they are, my dad can give you the breakdown. But that was just really cool. And even after that event, I had people emailing me like, "I loved your message today. I needed to hear that." Like people who were adults with kids emailing me saying that resonated with me.
Wow.
I really liked what you said about this. Like that to me is more important than any base hit I could have or any play I could make in the field ever. So that was something that was really cool.
Outstanding. Thanks for sharing that. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Really
thanks.
neat.
All right, it's getting close, so I'm gonna go with the final questions now. Are you okay, Matt?
Let Matt say what he needs to say?
That's why I'm asking.
No. That's I'm ready. I'm ready for Paul to have his final questions here. Go
All
ahead.
right, so 3 questions to end it. So what's next for you? You're a
So
retired old lady grandma athlete. Your team called you grandma this year, right?
they did. And I wasn't even the oldest on the team. They just said, and I quote, "I have grandma-like tendencies." So take that as you may. I don't. For my birthday, they got me a shirt off the order form that says softball grandma, which is like if you're an actual grandma, you'd wear that. Anyways, so a month and a day from today, I am moving to the suburbs of Chicago. I got a job with a tech company out there working as a financial analyst in what's called their financial development program. So for the next 3 years, every year I'll be able to switch which department of finance I'm working in. So get some leadership experience, finance experience, and things like that. So I'm really, really excited about that opportunity, as I've had 2 internships with that company over the past 2 summers, and I've been able to network with a lot of amazing people out there. So I'm glad I have a little bit of a community that I'm going to out there. So I'm really fortunate for everything they've done for me and the opportunity that they're providing.
That's awesome. That'll be a great experience for you. Good luck with that.
Thank you. I
I'm
appreciate
not
it.
gonna say awesome because I've been hearing it for a year from you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Second question. Are you done with the game?
My body says yes to playing. So I definitely am not done with the game. I think, of all that it's taught me, I want to in some form give back to that, whether it be through speaking, writing, coaching, just in any form that it can. And it's not something I want to force, if that makes sense. It's something that I want to come to me when it's meant to come to me. We haven't really talked about this. Everything happens for a reason. So when I go out there, I know it's gonna come in some way, and I'm not saying it'll show up at my doorstep. I need to be open to the opportunities that present themselves. But I think, there's a lot of different avenues to go with it, and I'm hoping that the right one that's meant for me will present itself. So,
Awesome. Last question. And it really is. It's not like where I say 3 and I ask 10. This
yeah.
is the last
Is
question.
it like a 1A, B, C? Yeah.
No, it's just one question right now. What
Okay.
advice do you have for young girls playing the game of softball right now? Or what would you tell your younger self? You could answer it either way.
I mean, I think there's a few things, if that's okay.
Well, now you're making it an A, B, and C
Well,
question.
okay, you asked me the broadest question on earth. Whatever. Let me think here. So one, I think, is always stay true to yourself. So I think in athletics, a lot of the times it can be easy to kind of lose the values you have when things get hard, compromise your goals, whether it be to get recruited early on, you see your friends getting recruited, like I want to be recruited too. So maybe, what I thought was important wasn't because the school offered me something else, or just things like that. I think staying true to yourself, showing grace when things don't go your way. So learning how to respond to failure. So one of my favorite quotes is, you can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond to it. So just learning that from an early age, especially if you choose to play this game more so out of any others, you will fail more than you succeed. And I'm not gonna lie, it straight up sucks. It sometimes sucks so bad, but I think that's why the sport teaches you so much. Because in life you're gonna fail. And it's, you kind of see it as just a stepping stone and a part of the game or a part of life instead of a main character in it, if that makes sense. So you're not defined by it because, in softball, you succeed 3 out of 10 times, you're awesome. Where, sometimes in life, if you're setting your goals high enough, if you succeed 3 out of 10 times, you're awesome. Whereas if you're setting lower goals, you're like, oh, if I'm not 10 out of 10, things like that. And then also, I think just prioritize your relationships too, friendships, family. A sport is important, don't get me wrong, but so are the people in your life. I've seen it with people in my life who, when they're going through stuff, they kind of just push everyone away. And that can be so easy. Or, I'm stressed, so I'm gonna be alone today instead of go make memories with my friends. Or I'm gonna things like that. And while it's so important to find balance, your identity is not just in softball. Your identity is not how well you swing a bat. Your identity is not how well you kick a ball. Your identity is not, how you perform in your sport. So just knowing like there's so many other aspects of your life, your academics, how well of a child you are, sister, brother. If you want to pursue other things, that's awesome too. I did a bunch of other things in college and I'm happy that I did. I joined clubs, I did other stuff. Some of my really good friends in college don't even know where the softball field is, and that's okay. And because you know what, now I don't play a sport now either. We're the same, not the, like, we're the same. And I just think that's important. So just prioritizing relationships, leaning on people around you, knowing your identity is much more than just an athlete, and continuing to work hard.
Those are all great lessons for anyone, which is fantastic, and all hit home. At least all hit home.
Alli, thank you. Your episode 76. I know you're wondering why you took so long to come on, but
no, it's always been my dream to be the 76 pick on your podcast.
I think that was what wasn't Tom Brady the 76 pick, Matt?
Funny.
He was like a 7th round pick, and so he would have been 2 something or somewhere in there.
No,
Yeah.
but
I'm kidding.
We'll have you back on, at some point, and
when I failed a few more times and can talk about it, I'll be happy to come.
Well, hey, I'll end it with this. It seems to be your MO. Like your greatest moments almost come from your worst moments or your biggest failures, and you'll have more, no doubt about it. But Alli Richmond always seems to recover, but you just don't know when. You just keep trusting the process, right? So
definitely.
Thank you. I'll see you in a few minutes. I mean, you're not too far away right now, and
that's good. Thank you,
Matt,
guys.
Thanks, Alli.
for coming
Great
on.
seeing you.
Yeah.
Great
See ya.
seeing you.